What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. And some breaking news coming in the last couple of minutes when it comes to Marcus Rashford and what he's going to be doing, or should I say not be doing, over the summer. And that is playing for England at Euro 2024, because the breaking news over this lunchtime, and it must be said, it's not been made official just yet. The official announcement will come out in just under an hour's time. But the rumoured news being broken by very credible journalists like David Ornstein, like Sky Sports News, like everyone, is that Marcus Rashford has been left out of England's Euro 2024 squad. Now, some other Manchester United players have been included, seemingly. Again, the official announcement is going to be coming in the next hour. It's the provisional squad. It's the 30-man squad that's then going to be whittled down to 26. But seemingly, Marcus Rashford hasn't even made the provisional squad. Two names that have are Kobbie Mainoo and Luke Shaw. They have made the squad. We're going to get into all of the finer details surrounding it, as I mentioned, as we go through. We might even stay live until the announcement is made by England. And also we'll touch on some other players as well that have seemingly been included in their European squads too. I've just seen the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Dalot have been included in the Portugal national team squad, as you would expect. But it is the big developing breaking news about Marcus Rashford not being included in the provisional squad. Now, as I mentioned, this was there were rumours that came out about this on social media. Then it was confirmed by David Ornstein, who posted the following: Marcus Rashford not part of the initial England squad for Euro 2024. The 26-year-old Manchester United attacker made a strong impact at the World Cup and selected for last camp, but is expected to miss out of provisional group Gareth Southgate names for Euro 2024. Now, as far as other people that seemingly have been included in this group from Manchester United, one is Luke Shaw. Sammy Mockball from the Daily Mail is suggesting that Luke Shaw will be included in the provisional England squad for Euro 2024. This was a story that came out last night from the Standard, saying that Shaw was to be included. It's being considered, or viewed as anyway, a kind of prove to me how fit you are and then you can be included in the squad. Just in terms of competition for that left back spot, it looks like that Ben Chilwell of Chelsea is going to be missing out, which maybe is an indication that Shaw may actually make the full squad, the full 26-man squad. Kobbie Mainoo seemingly also is expected to be included in this provisional England squad for Euro 2024 today. Alex Crook, David Ornstein, everyone else is sort of saying the same thing. Sky Sports News are also saying the same thing, that he has a very good chance of making this final squad. So obviously news keeps coming in. As I mentioned, the announcement is going to come in just under an hour's time, and we'll see if we can stay live until then, see what's happening regarding that. Let me know in the chat, first of all, what you're thinking about Marcus Rashford. Let me know what your thoughts are for the rationale behind this. Let me know your thoughts about all of it. My initial reaction to it was it's going to be really interesting to see the answers that are given as to why. Obviously, because there's several ways to look at this, isn't there? It'll be interesting to see if they push it onto a fitness situation. Of course, Marcus Rashford hasn't been fit for the last few weeks, but he is back in Manchester United training and has played minutes. He came on against Brighton at the weekend. I think it was the 75th minute or something like that. He came on. He will be available for the FA Cup final, most likely. Now, whether or not he starts, that's another question. I remember Flex and myself did kind of touch on this, didn't we, saying, thought he'd get more minutes against Brighton. That was a bit surprising. Seeing that Garnacho started, seeing that Ahmad started, that was a little bit surprising. So is he fully fit? Is he fully ready? And I just wonder if they're going to spin it by saying, yeah, we had a chat with Marcus and he's had an injury and, he's working back from it, and collectively we came together and made a decision that he's going to this summer just recover and all that. But to me, that's BS. To me, that's BS, because it's the European Championships. It's England in the European Championships. And this is also a European Championships that, whilst I don't think England are going to win it, this is a European Championship that England are considered one of the favourites to win it, or one of the favourites to go far in the tournament as well. And for the sake of fitness, would he sacrifice that? I don't want to be involved. So I would poo-poo that if that indeed is the reason as is given. I think it's a massive, massive wake-up call for Marcus Rashford. How can it not be? I mean, this is a guy that was arguably Manchester United's best player last season, scored all those goals. When he was at the World Cup with Gareth Southgate too, he played very well at the World Cup, scored important goals in that competition. And fast forward, 18 months later, he's not even making the squad for a major championship. And it's on the back of a really, really, really disappointing season for Marcus Rashford. And I think it should go to show that, your name isn't enough. The reputation isn't enough. If you're not performing well, people will go past you, and other people will be selected instead. With England at the moment, we have really an embarrassment of riches, don't we? If you're an England fan, of course, you have an embarrassment of riches in terms of attacking players, in terms of wide players, and if you're not doing it and you're not performing, then you're not going to get picked. Now, again, I'm surprised in the sense of Gareth Southgate has his favourites. It's been documented, the likes of, Harry Maguire, when he wasn't playing for Manchester United, he still got in the England squad. And Jordan Henderson, although it looks like Jordan Henderson's not going to make it as well. Calvin Phillips probably the same, I would think. Those names in the past, when they haven't been playing or haven't been featured, have still been selected. So Gareth Southgate is a favourites person. But like I say, there's an embarrassment of riches, an absolute embarrassment of riches. Raheem Sterling, another one. He's not made the England squad seemingly this time around. He was a favourite of Gareth Southgate and he hasn't been picked. So Marcus Rashford, in that regard, is no different. It is no different. And I think that, as I said, I think it should serve as a wake-up call for him. That, you are... I know it sounds like a cliche, but I think it's true. You are legitimately only as good as your last match, or you're only as good as your recent form, or what have you. And I think it's quite staggering, isn't it, that that Gareth Southgate has done something that Erik ten Hag was quite reluctant to do, and I think he'd still be quite reluctant to do. I mean, we've had this discussion, haven't we, recently? We did it on the Trinity on Friday, of talking about, will Marcus Rashford start in the FA Cup final? And for me, he shouldn't. For me, he shouldn't start in the FA Cup final. He's not been playing well this season, and on top of that, he's not even been playing recently because he's been out through injury. So for me, it was start Ahmed on the right, start Garnacho on the left, and do that. And the only sort of thing in your head that told you otherwise was, well, Eric likes to go with tried and trusted, and Ten Hag's backed Marcus Rashford a lot, even when Rashford, probably didn't deserve it when he wasn't playing well. Erik ten Hag has stuck by Marcus Rashford a lot this season through poor performances and kept him on the pitch too long when he should have come off. And even when there has been stuff off the pitch, he's come back very, very quickly. So that leads into, is he going to start in that FA Cup final? I don't know. But even now, it kind of does feel like, doesn't it, a little bit that Ahmad's played the last 3 games. Garnacho, he's definitely someone that needs a rest, and he's still starting games. So, to me, when he played 75 minutes against Brighton, that led to me more thinking, maybe then he's not going to start the FA Cup final. And think of that. Think of that in, again, the last 12 months for Marcus Rashford. Going from scoring those goals, getting a new contract, and then, since then, he could find himself in a position where he's not going to a major international tournament with England. And on top of that, he might not even start in a cup final for Manchester United, club and country. And if that's not, again, a wake-up call, I don't know what is. And that's when we get back to, some of the stuff that we've seen in the media. When it comes to the Players Tribune article or some of the posts on social media or what have you, this was my thought process at the time, is now's not the time to do that. Now's not the time to do that. The time is to, get your head down, get your performances going. And it's not nice to see. It's not nice to see. When that incident happened the other day at Old Trafford, when there was the clash with the Man United fan. For me, as a Manchester United fan, I don't like to see that. I don't like to see that. But you then look at some of the again, the tweet when that went out about the abuse thing, and that was past midnight, and then you look at again the sort of clashing with fans. Like, he does appear to be, I don't know what the right word is, fragile maybe is the right word at the moment, and not in the right headspace. And the advice would be to him, legitimately, because you don't want to ever see a player, in a bad place. You don't want to ever see a player fail, particularly a Manchester United player fail. But the advice, if I had to give any to him, would be, don't do any media stuff. Don't do the tweets. Don't do the player tribune thing. Find some different people that are surrounding you. Get rid of those PR people and get your head down. Get your head down. Focus on performances. Focus on your football. Get back to at least a little bit better form, and then you can do the interview. Then you can do, because that's the difficult thing. When it was the whole, if you doubt me, even better, that quote. It's very, very, very risky to do that when you're not playing well. And once again we get into that conversation, don't we, of where is that line between criticism and abuse? Marcus Rashford, absolutely, Marcus Rashford receives a ton of abuse. You see it on social media. You can see it, and some people, when they're talking about him, they don't leave it to football. And it's disgusting. That's what social media is nowadays. That's what people are nowadays. It's a cesspool. But you can't just blanket statements saying that's all it is, because a lot of criticism of Marcus Rashford this season has been very, very valid. He's not been playing very well. In games, at points, not all the time, but at points, his work off the ball is poor. His contributions have been poor. He's been predictable. He's not been playing well. He just hasn't. Then you factor in the stuff that's happened off the pitch, with the Belfast thing, or after the Manchester Derby thing. That kind of stuff is unacceptable. It's unprofessional. Now, you don't want to dwell on the past, because those incidents have happened and they've moved on. But since then, what hasn't moved on has been his form. His form hasn't moved on. It hasn't got better. And it almost got to like a flashpoint, didn't it, with that game against Coventry at Wembley. He's booed off the pitch by his own fans. And then we didn't see him again because he was injured for a while. And that kind of just sums up his season. And if you're looking again at the embarrassment of riches that that Gareth Southgate and the England coaching staff have at their disposal, when you look at all of those other names, Marcus Rashford this season just doesn't come close, does he? I mean, he doesn't. He just doesn't come close to those names in terms of the form. So it's just another aspect of a really poor season. He has looked a shadow of himself. He has drifted through games. His work rate off the ball hasn't been good enough. He looks bereft of confidence. And, you're seeing youngsters. And you have to remember as well, with Marcus Rashford, how old is he? 26 years old. 26 years old. This is meant to be the prime of his career. This is meant to be, we're just getting started, of winning trophies and playing for your country and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's collapsed to a point this season that he's not going away to a major tournament and possibly not going to start in a cup final. And instead, you've got youngsters in Alejandro Garnacho, still a teenager, I think, isn't he? How old is Garnacho? Is he 19 at this point? Let's just double check. Alejandro Garnacho is 19 years old. You've got Amad Diallo, who until a couple of games ago hadn't even started a game this season. He's only 21. He's 22. And last season was on loan in the Championship, whilst Rashford was getting his bumper contract. And they deserve to be ahead of him in the team. They deserve to be starting. And you've got all of these players that are being selected for the England squad today. And again, it's not... The only surprising thing for me about Rashford not being included is you go, wow, Gareth Southgate actually didn't stick to favourites. He actually made, I think, the right decision, the right call. And that's the only surprising thing. If it legitimately was based completely on form, it's not surprising at all. not in the slightest is it surprising. And as I say, I think it has to be considered and seen by him as a massive wake-up call. Now, obviously, stuff could still happen. It's provisional squad. People could drop out. People could get injured. Maybe Rashford still does end up going. But it says a lot that in the provisional squad, this isn't even like, well, it's just the final squad, it's done. Provisional squad, this is still a squad that has to be whittled down. He hasn't made it. And again, that's it's going to be a massive blow to him. But I don't think, realistically, I don't think he can have really any gripes, really. You know, whether it's form, whether it's off the field stuff, disciplinary issues, or what have you, it's just not been, not been the season at all for Marcus Rashford. And again, I don't think it should be a surprise in the slightest. I mean, I'll get some of your comments up on the screen right now. Let me know what you guys are thinking. And also, again, because obviously I know this isn't England view, it's United view. And some people go, well, I don't really care about the England squad, which is fair enough. But I think it does say a lot, doesn't it, about the player. It says a lot about Rashford. It says a lot about his season. And it says a lot about next season for him. I mean, and this summer for him is going to be massive once again, isn't it? What happens with Marcus Rashford this summer? There's been speculation about his future. Does he just go, I need a total reset. I need to get out of here. I've said before, I think that's what he needs. Legitimately, I think he needs to get away from Manchester United. I think he needs to get away from the spotlight. I think he needs to go to somewhere else. Maybe even, to European football. Whether he went to PSG or whether he went to Serie A, La Liga or something like that. Go to there. And he needs to get his head down and focus on getting his best form back. Like the spotlight, the scrutiny is just so severe, and I'm not sure he can handle that. And it's led to this situation now, where, like I say, he's left out of the England squad for the Euros, and on top of that, status for the cup finals in question. It's quite remarkable. Red Baron with a super chat, a couple here. It says, I think Rashford has been let down by mentors. No, the one he selected to be around him. I think he needed to surround himself to wisdom, not ignorance. He also says, I think Man United is partially to blame to give a person so much superstar status without looking at the implications in the long term. Well, look, we've had this debate about Marcus Rashford a lot this season, haven't we? And I think Flex kind of summed it up really well, where he was sort of saying that there's not equity, there's not balance with Marcus Rashford, in the sense that the Marcus Rashford, shall we say, brand, and I know whenever you say brand in football, people roll their eyes, but the Marcus Rashford brand and the hype and the stature doesn't actually match up to his ability. Do you know what I mean? And his ability, I think, for me anyway, is below this superstar stature. That's not how good Marcus Rashford is. And because of that, there's always the disconnect. And I don't think, he can handle that kind of scrutiny and pressure. On top of that, like, again, and that's not justifying some of the stuff that he goes through, because I'm really not doing that. But at the same time, this is what's happened this season is somewhat similar to what happened to him the season before last, with Ollie's last season and the Ranić season as well. That there was the clashes with fans then, and the body language wasn't good then, and it didn't look good then. Then that season, Ten Hag's first season, we saw the stuff of him, working hard in the summer, blah 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 blah. Form came back, didn't come back immediately. People kind of forget that. He built up to it. Form came back, and then when was it? Around sort of March, April time once again last year, just dropped off, and never really came back. And it's unfortunate to see from him, but I can't look at his performances this season and go, I feel really bad that he hasn't made the England squad, because he hasn't made the England squad because he hasn't been good enough this season. I mean, that's I can seem quite cold and callous, but that is the fact. That is the fact. He has not been good enough this season to warrant a spot in the England squad. Now, an argument could be made, and again, it's when you get into the Gareth Southgate-ness, that Gareth Southgate, picks his favourites. For England, has Marcus Rashford delivered? Well, again, last time in the World Cup, he did well. But the England squad has developed a lot since then. That's my biggest concern with Gareth Southgate, is I think the manager doesn't fit the group of players we've got, because that England squad is really, 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 really strong. And I don't think the manager matches up to the tactics and can effectively manage that group of players. But again, with Rashford, if you're going to compare them, a lot of them, you go, well, no, they've all been superior to Rashford this season. That's it. And eventually, poor performances and not contributing that much, and again, injury will catch up to you. Will catch up to you, and you'll stop being included, and that's it. So for Marcus Rashford, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. I think definitely will be interesting to see what happens next for him. It's going to be interesting to see a few things. As I mentioned earlier on, Gareth Southgate will be asked. I mean, he's one of the biggest omissions from this squad. So when the squad is announced in just over half an hour's time and he does the press conference and what have you, it'll be interesting to see what Gareth Southgate uses as justification. If he says it's form, if he says it's fitness, because I do wonder if they're going to go down that fitness route and just say, well, he's had an injury recently and yes, he's on his way back, but we think it's best that he focus on his fitness. You go, what? To miss a European Championship? That's not really going to cut it. I'm not sure about that. But it'll be interesting to see if they do that. It's going to be interesting to see if Rashford himself says anything, right? I mean, my goodness me, puts out posts and what have you. So it's going to be interesting to see if Rashford says anything, or if, again, he just gets his head down, which I think he should. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Rashford at the weekend, if he's going to start in that final. I don't think he should, particularly, factoring in two things, form and fitness. Form hasn't been good enough prior to his injury. Let's not pretend like it was. And two, he's not played that much recently. Ahmad started more games recently. So Ahmad should start that game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for the weekend with Rashford. And then going into the summer, once again, it will be interesting to see what happens with Rashford, his future. If he just, once again, gets his head down completely, I don't know. But that's a big blow for Marcus Rashford, and I think he has to look internally at himself, at his own performances, and I think he also then does have to look externally about his team that surrounds him, the people that surround him, and go, this isn't working. This is not. This is not. Whatever setup he has got right now is not working. That's it. It is not working, and something needs to change. Whether that's environment, whether that's people, whether that's training, whether that's whatever, a lot needs to change, I think, for Marcus Rashford. Another super chat here. Akash says, Sir Dave told Southgate not to take Rashford. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, maybe puts a bit of cold water, I don't know, on the Gareth Southgate to Manchester United stuff, right? That'd be a bit frosty if Southgate came in. He's not going to come in. I don't think that's going to happen. Be sure to click the like button, by the way, if you haven't already, guys. We've got over 1,000 people watching, which is great for a emergency lunchtime stream on a Tuesday that was not planned. So if you haven't already clicked the like button, the poll is in the chat saying, once again, have you hit the like button? Yes, doing it now. Let's see what people are saying here in the chat at the moment. Ian says, I hope we win something in my lifetime. We've got a hell of a squad. Come on, England. Prod by Palmeria says, Garnacho's bad day is still better than Rashford's good day this season. What else are people saying here? Chris says, it might be a blessing. He can rest up and take a look forward and try and overcome whatever issues he is experiencing. Well, that's, and again, you look at like the Dele Alli issue, or the Dele Alli situation, rather. And, the interview he did with Gary Neville, like, you don't want to speculate because you don't know. So I don't want to do that. But you also have to be cognizant that this might not just be a football issue. And that's why I sort of say that he's got to take a step back, Rashford, in my opinion. Reevaluate everything, and make some serious changes. Whether, that's, himself, whether that's the environment, whether that's the people, whether that's the club that he's at, whether that's a lot of things. Because this should not be happening for him. Whatever your opinion is on Marcus Rashford, how good you think he is or isn't, a player that had the season he had last season, at 26 years of age, should not have the drop-off that he has had. and also should not, be missing out on international tournaments at the age of 26. That cannot happen, and something needs to change. Something needs to improve. So hopefully it does serve again as a wake-up call for change. And look, if that means that he leaves Manchester United, that's the change that he needs. Then, what would that report? That report came out. Everyone's got a price. So does Marcus Rashford. If he's an academy player, pure profit. If someone wants to put a bid in this summer, 70+ million quid or something, I think Manchester United would be foolish not to consider it. Nobody's safe apart from a very, very select few players, I think, at United. Nobody is safe, and nor should they be. They've got no right to be, a lot of them. They've not shown any evidence to display that they should be safe. And it should be the same stance that's happened with Rashford at England should be the same one at United. If he's not good enough, then he should be left out. That's either of the team, that's either of, the squad in terms of right, we're going to sell him. And that should be the case for anyone, regardless of how high profile they are. If they're not good enough, if they're not playing well, if they're not delivering, then they're not involved. That's it. Football, like I said, it's a results-based business, and it's a what have you done for me lately business in terms of your form. And that's it. Now, the difficult thing with like a Rashford is, and this is what Manchester United will find themselves in, is that they've just given him a big new contract. And, not to sound too cold, but you're stuck with him then. And unless you can make something work, where it is a club like a PSG or whatever can come in and pick up his wages, or Rashford's willing to forego some of his wages. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next with Marcus Rashford. Absolutely, and very interesting to see what the fallout is because of it. What are people saying in the chat? Then we'll move on to a couple of other players, because again, I do want to talk about Luke Shaw. I do want to talk about Kobbie Mainoo, because they're the other players that have seemingly been included. As I say, it does look like the squad is going to be announced at 2 p.m. British summertime. Once again, just some names that have been included, who haven't been included for England: Jared Branthwaite, Bowen, Eze, Grealish, Gahey, Henderson, Curtis Jones, Kobbie Mainoo, Jarrell Quansah, Luke Shaw, Ivan Toney, James Trafford, and Adam Wharton, all the people that have been included. Some of the significant names that haven't been included, or seemingly, are Ben Chilwell, Jordan Henderson, Reece James, and Marcus Rashford, again from Manchester United. Now, let's talk about Luke Shaw first. I spoke about it this morning on the Morning View, and I think from an English fan point of view, I think it's a massive risk, because look, this is where it gets interesting, isn't it? Because Luke Shaw is a guy that, my goodness me, he's delivered for Gareth Southgate. He scored in the Euros final for Gareth Southgate, 3 years ago? But at the same time, Luke Shaw is someone that he's had injury issues his whole career. It's someone that this season, we thought he might make the FA Cup final. He's not making the FA Cup final. And even if he is ready to go for the tournament, or they think he is, what's the chances he could break down once again? I think there's a big chance of that. For me, left back in the summer, it can't be stated how big of a priority it is for Manchester United to sign a left back this summer. We don't have one. We don't. Terrell Malacia, I think at this stage, with his knee issues he's faced this season, he's not been available for a single game all season. 2 knee surgeries, a big knee injury. At this stage for him, you're just hoping that he just gets back and gets close to what he was previously. And again, we don't know what his future looks like at United because of that. Because how long could he come back? And they shouldn't rush him back. My goodness me, he's been through the mill with that injury. Luke Shaw, been at United for like a decade now, and for half of the time he's been injured. Now, some of those injuries have been out of his control. Obviously, the leg break was a really, really bad one. But this season, you once again saw the example of Luke Shaw with, going into a campaign, he's going to be missing time at some point. He is. He is going to be missing time at some point. And what Man United need is consistency. What Man United need is availability. And on top of that, quality. And for me, we need to find a left back in the summer that is, a decent age, has a decent fitness record. I mean, you're always taking a risk when you sign a player, because as I mentioned, someone like Malacia, his fitness record was actually pretty good before he came to Manchester United, and look what happened. So anything can happen with that. But I think one thing's for certain is you can't rely on Luke Shaw to be available. If he plays, when he plays, a good player, of course he is. But whenever you have to have the conversation of if he plays or when he's fit, then you've already got a problem there, haven't you? You have, and it's not as if with Shaw, it's like, well, we don't really have a big sample size. He's been at the club for like, again, a decade, close to. So the sample size is absolutely there. Now, do I think Shaw will go this summer? I don't think Luke Shaw will go this summer. If we got an offer for him this summer, that was a decent offer, would I accept it? Yeah, because again, I'm not. Everyone for me has a price this summer. No, I don't think Man United are in the position. Can't get rid of Luke Shaw, can we? Of course we can. Why not? If that could fund getting in 2 left backs this summer that were more consistently available, then I'd do it. And it's not a detriment to Luke Shaw's quality. When he plays, he's a good player. He's a quality player, but he's just not available. Like that's it. And for sure, if we're being really honest here, how fortunate is he to be included in that provisional squad? Again, he hasn't played since February. The only reason he's being included in that squad is Gareth Southgate's a big fan, and he wants Luke Shaw to be fit. He wants him to be fit. That's what it is. So yeah, I mean, and again, if you're looking at who could possibly be included in there, I mean, we know Ben Chilwell isn't going to be included, so probably who would be the left back? Would they go with like Walker at right back and put Trippier at left back, perhaps, maybe? Would they go with like, I don't know, would you go with maybe, I don't know, like Rico Lewis? You could play him there as well. Maybe that's why. I think the fact that Chilwell has been not included probably says a lot about Shaw's chances, doesn't it? And actually the confidence that that Shaw could be available for England. And maybe again it's just a case of sort of left-footed players. I don't know, but he's very fortunate. He's very fortunate to be included in that. And as far as from the Manchester United slant of it, we need a left back in the summer. Easy. Need a left back, and if I was Luke Shaw, I'd be looking at my situation at Manchester United thinking, strong chance I'm not going to be the starting left back anymore at United after this summer, because in a season where we've bemoaned availability and consistency, if we've got an available and consistent left back, he's in trouble. he absolutely is in trouble because of that. So we shall see what happens with that one. In addition to that too, we've still got over 1,000 people watching. We've got close to 360 likes. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get that to 500 likes too. What else are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Courtstar says Chilwell was dreadful in the friendlies in March, which helped Shaw. I think you're actually pretty close to something, because Ben Chilwell, he played in those, like you said, those friendlies against Brazil and Belgium, and he was shocking. Like, he was so bad. And probably that says a lot, doesn't it? That he would, Southgate would rather have a half-fit Luke Shaw than Ben Chilwell, who's not been playing very well. So, yes. Also, someone that has been included, or seemingly has been included again, it's going to come out in 20 minutes' time, is Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo, Manchester United's Kobbie Mainoo, has been included in this provisional squad. I'd be very surprised if he got cut from that squad at this point. I think it's the rise of Kobbie this season. MA says there, Kobbie. The rise of him this season, it's quite staggering to see, isn't it? And you know what's funny with Kobbie Mainoo too? So obviously, you forget that it's not even been a full season for him. He didn't start the season. He would have, but he had the injury and the surgery, and so he didn't start the whole season. And even then, when he was playing games for Manchester United, playing well, playing in a really poor United side. You know, again with senior players that were not living up to their expectations. Kobbie's delivering. And then he does get picked for England, but not in the senior squad. And then possibly maybe because of some dropouts, some injuries, what have you, suddenly, and maybe because of some pressure, gets bumped up to the senior squad. And then you heard the ops, didn't you? You heard the ops of going, why has he been selected? He's not that good. He's only played a handful of games for Manchester United. No, he's not that good. And the United fans, to be fair, all in unison were like, no, seriously, he's good. And it wasn't even like overhyping him, and we do that. Of course we do. We overhype youngsters, young players. Oh, they're the best thing ever. But with Kobbie, it was different. No, he's really good. He really is. He's really good. And then played those couple of games for England in the international break in March. And I saw a lot of people, a lot of opposition fans, non-Man United fans, that hadn't maybe watched Kobbie as regularly as you or I, that watched him every single week, watched him play and went, he actually is really good. And what really stood out to me, and this is maybe the hope that Manchester United can get to in the future with Kobbie Mainoo, is you see how comfortable he looked with better players surrounding him, linking up with like Phil Foden, linking up with that kind of player of who's actually can actually pass the ball 5 yards, and like a lot of the Man United players playing in those little pockets, playing in those little gaps, and not having to worry about the deficiencies that he does have, because he's not totally complete, is he? I mean, one of the sort of negatives you could say about Kobbie is that he sort of his pace or getting around maybe isn't as good as some other players, but if he's got players around him that can complement some of the negatives that he's got, then he looks absolutely complete. And having someone like as Dinoy says that, getting someone like Declan Rice surrounding him, who can just is a bit more mobile, can cover those spaces, win the ball back. Then you can give it to Kobbie, who's really tidy with his feet. Then he can give it to someone like a Phil Foden, play it in neat and tidy. That's such a massive difference, isn't it? That is a huge... Or Jude Bellingham as well, who's powerhouse, strong with the ball, good with his feet too. Again, playing with better quality players, and he didn't look out of place at all. And it says and do you know what it is? It says a lot about the players that we've spoken about today that have been included in this England squad. And the only one we haven't actually is Harry Maguire. I haven't really heard anything about Harry Maguire, whether he's going to be included or not. I would think he probably would be, but we'll see. I don't know if anyone's reported that. But those three that I've mentioned Rashford, Shaw, Kobbie, it says a lot about Kobbie this season, doesn't it? That immediately we go, well, out of those three, Kobbie's the one that should be in there. The other two, no. I mean, that says a lot. The kid versus the two people that have been to major tournaments with England, Kobbie versus Shaw and Rashford, you go, oh yeah, Kobbie should be in there. Absolutely. Luke Shaw, probably not, hasn't been fit enough. Marcus Rashford, no, hasn't been good enough. But Kobbie, yes. And I think that probably encapsulates Manchester United's season, doesn't it? That out of those senior players, you go, the young player's been the best player. Harry Maguire, for Harry Maguire, he deserves to go. He deserves to be in the squad. He's been good this season. You would worry with him again about fitness. You'd worry about fitness because he's been out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And the hope is that he'll be back for the FA Cup final. But I think from his perspective, and our perspective, it's not the end of the world, is it? Because it's like, Leach is back, Raphael Varane's back. They'll probably be starting in the final. Then you've still got other people on the bench. You've got Johnny Evans. You've got Willy Camboila. And that's not to put Harry Maguire down, because I do think he's had a good season. But with Maguire, should he be named in that England squad? Yeah, sure. He's done well this season. Can't argue. Again, in a bad Manchester United squad, Harry Maguire's actually done okay, which is good for him. Because in previous England inclusions, that's been a big point of contention. Not playing well, and also they got to a point where you're not playing too. And like I said, I would say good for him for that. But again, even that speaks volumes, isn't it? Of the United players that have been included in the England squad, you go Kobbie, deserved. Maguire deserved. Who would have thought that a year ago? We'd be going, okay, Euro 2024 squad. The two deserving players from United will probably be Kobbie Mainoo and Harry Maguire. You'd be like, what? Who? But that's been United this season. And the players that haven't made it in Rashford shouldn't make it. Luke Shaw, if he does make it, again, he's going to be in the provisional one. Whether he makes the full 26, we'll wait and see with his fitness. But very, very fortunate. Very fortunate if he does make it. And that's probably based on factors of, favoritism from Southgate and also maybe, left-footed availability in that team too. And again, it says an awful lot about where Manchester United are at the moment. Once again, I'm just sort of looking at lots of people are putting in their sort of predicted squads here because the announcement for England is going to come out in 13 minutes time. Before it does, actually, maybe we should just look at some other bits and pieces, some other bits of United news whilst that happens. As I said earlier on from some other Manchester United players, the Portuguese national team squad has been selected too. Their graphic is wild. I'm just looking at this on social media. They've not got a list. They've got like what is that? They've got like a thing of, is that like flowers? I think it's like flowers, and the Portuguese team is like coming out of the flowers. But from a Manchester United perspective of the players coming out of the flowers there, Diogo Dalot and Bruno Fernandes have been named in the Portuguese squad, which again that's not very surprising. It would have been stunning, wouldn't it, if the opposite had happened. Bruno Fernandes constantly delivers for his country. Has been, regardless of your opinion on Bruno this season, we're better with him. He still creates a ton of chances. Does he have his deficiencies? Of course he does. Bruno Fernandes, it's well documented, but he's a really, really important player. Diogo Dalot, look, there's a strong argument to be made. If you're going to talk about Manchester United players of the season, and it's always a bit difficult, isn't it, when the team has done really poorly and, it's our worst finish in Premier League history, not our worst points total, but our worst finish. It's a bit, almost feels a bit of a tainted award, doesn't it? But for Dalot, there's an absolute strong argument he could be named player of the season for Manchester United. He'd be in that conversation, no doubt about it. So he deserves it, and Portugal would be considered one of the favourites for the Euros, wouldn't they? My goodness me, they've got a really, really, really strong squad. I'm not sure about their coach, in Roberto Martinez, who, let's face it, had oh my goodness, that Belgium squad he had, and for them to sort of fumble it the way they did. I mean, what did they reach? What was the best thing they reached? Was it a World Cup semi-final? I think was the best they reached. Yeah, it's incredible. But by all accounts too, and I can't say I'm an expert on Belgium football or what have you, very political. I think a lot of influential people in that team maybe didn't get along, which maybe caused some friction. And so far, he's done, I think, pretty well at Portugal. And maybe this will be his proving point this summer. Maybe Portugal will win it again, and he'll go, see, it wasn't me, it was them. It was their fault. It was them. So, look, you know me, whenever international football comes up, whenever an international break comes up, I'm always, who gives a shit about international football? It's so rubbish. And it is. Whenever, the friendlies come up, or even qualifiers come up, you sort of go, but when it gets to a tournament, when it gets to an international tournament, it's great, isn't it? Absolutely. Lawazi clearly does not know me because he says, not sure about their manager, yet you've got Southgate. If you think that I'm a Gareth Southgate fan, where have you been? Where have you been, my friend? You must be new. You must be new. If I'm saying that I'm not sure about Roberto Martinez, I'd have him in a heartbeat in England over Gareth Southgate. You taking the piss? Oh my God. Gareth Southgate should be nowhere near the England job, let alone the Manchester United job. No chance. No chance whatsoever. I'm with you. We've got Gareth Southgate. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think England are going to win the Euros. I don't think Eng because when we face a good team, we'll lose. I mean, it's pretty simple analysis, isn't it? Because that's what tends to happen with Gareth Southgate. It's all well and good. The way we can win the Euros is if we don't play any good teams in the whole tournament, or maybe until the final, and then maybe we'll get a bit of luck. But if we got to play a good team at any point, so like a France, a Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, just pick, even Germany, no, it's not gonna. We'll lose. We'll go out. That's it. Yes. Anish says, what about Sancho? Well, there's been no reports, I don't think, about Jadon Sancho. I would think, considering he hasn't been in an England squad in, my goodness, how long has it been since he's not been in an England squad? I would be very surprised. That would be quite a big story, wouldn't it? I don't think that Jadon Sancho will be included in the England squad. Now, if he moves to Dortmund permanently in the summer and continues playing and playing well, anything could happen. But I don't think he'll make it. Once again, there's a true embarrassment of riches, isn't there, with the England attacking players or wide players, and also with players that have played well this season too. It's not as if we've got some fantastic players but they haven't played well this season. You've got people like Phil Foden, who's been incredible. You've obviously got Bukayo Saka, you've got Cole Palmer, you've got obviously Bellingham. I know he's not a wide player, but Jude Bellingham, an attacking player. You've got Maddison, who's been good for Spurs too. I don't know. Is there a rumour that Jarrod Bowen's been included in it as well? I'm not sure. I hear that Grealish has been. But still, again, it truly is an embarrassment of riches. And then you look at strikers that are seemingly going to be included. I think you're probably looking at Harry Kane, obviously. Although there were some rumours that he had a bit of a back problem. I saw Florian Plettenberg say that, but they think he's going to be fine. Ollie Watkins, who's been brilliant for Aston Villa this year. I mean, not just in terms of scoring goals, but also assists. The wild thing for me with Ollie Watkins this season, as I mentioned, wasn't just the goals. It was actually how much he contributed to the team. And I saw something the other day, and maybe someone can educate me a little bit on this. People were angry that he got the Playmaker Award or something like that because his expected assist was really low than his actual assist. I was like, who gives a shit about that? I mean, isn't it the ones that count? I mean, he got 19 goals. Well, in the Premier League, he got 19 goals and 13 assists. I mean, look, you know me. I was saying last summer, I think it was. Was it last summer? It might even been, last summer. I'm a big Ollie Watkins fan. I think not only score goals, gets assists, his work rate off the ball. You watch him in that Unai Emery team. His work rate off the ball is good. He presses from the front. He's a good player. Really, really good player. Reliable 1-1. Plays a lot of games too. Played 37 times in the Premier League this season. 37. He's been available in nearly every game in the Premier League. Played 53 times all comps. In all comps, 53 games, 27 goals, 13 assists. Not bad going. He really does deserve to go. I did see a story the other day. I think it was TalkSport was suggesting that United were going to try and go for him in the summer. We are not getting Ollie Watkins in the summer. No chance. It'll be very difficult to get any Aston Villa player this summer because they got the Champions League. And I think any player that was considering, maybe moving to pastures new will go, well, I'm in the Champions League. I'm not going to. Of course not. I'm not gonna leave Villa this summer. I also saw another story that Ross Barkley, it looks like he's going to move to Aston Villa from Luton, which would be a very shrewd signing for them. He's been really good for Luton this season. Obviously, they got relegated, and he was also a player that was linked to United, wasn't he? He was linked to United primarily because of the Nice ties. He previously had played for Nice, so Nice, Ineos equals Manchester United. I don't know how real that was. But looks like he's going to be going into to Villa and playing in the Champions League. And good for him. I mean, he's played very well. He's another one, to be honest, when it comes to this England squad. He might have had a little look in. He might have gone, I've played all right this season. I don't think he'll make it. But he's another one that he might be a bit unfortunate to miss out. But again, that's because of the strength in depth as well. And then also when it comes to the strikers, I think it probably will be Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney. And Ivan Toney, he might consider himself a bit fortunate to get in because, of course, he missed a big chunk of the season. And I've seen people suggesting that maybe Dominic Solanke should get in instead of Ivan Toney. But I would go with Ivan Toney purely because penalties are very important. And when you're in because if we're going to play a system with one striker, Harry Kane's going to play obviously all the games. But if you do get into a situation where you've got to go to penalties, you want Ivan Toney in the team. Ivan Toney in the team, take penalties. Considering, well, how did we lose the last Euros? On penalties. And that you want Ivan Toney in for that reason. And he didn't want to put himself in the shop window too. Chances are he's going to leave this summer. Man United, would I take Ivan Toney at United? I would take Ivan Toney at United. Depends on the price. I mean, the prices that were being quoted last summer were astronomical. But then, seemingly, they came down quite a bit, didn't they? To possibly like 40 million or something. 40 million, Premier League proven, scores goals. We need a striker in the summer. It's just a case of how much money we can spend, depending on our European football situation and how well we can sell players. I wouldn't be opposed to Garassi as well. I mentioned that in the morning show. His release clause is super low. It's like 15 million quid. And I got like... well, I want to see his stats again. I got about this morning. They are quite remarkable, his stats this season. In the Bundesliga and in the Cup for Stuttgart. 30 games, 30 goals. It's not bad, is it? But another one, a bit like the Aston Villa situation I mentioned previously, they did get into the Champions League. So maybe he might look at it and say, well, I did make it in the Champions League with Stuttgart, maybe I'll stick around. But he's 28. And he might think, well, the time, where's the man's Kushner? The time is now for him to leave. So that's another one in the market. And considering that his release clause again, like 15 million quid around that, he's worth more than that. That is an absolute bargain. And I'd be stunned if clubs all around Europe aren't looking at that. But again, it's a case of whether or not Stuttgart can convince him to stay on that one. But going back to England, circling back to England, I think the strikers will be Harry Kane, Watkins, and Ivan Toney. I think that's my predictions for that. The squad is about to come out in about 60 seconds' time. Red Baron says, please do a scout view. I'm ignorant on players. Well, the best thing about that on United View, when you say a scout view, is that so is the scout. the scout's very... With the scout, he sees those players for the first time when they appear on that touchscreen, and he does his little scribbles and drawings. But you're right, we do need to see the return of the scout. I know he's been very busy. He's been very busy going away, looking at all of these players. I think he spent about 3 months in South America. I know that for a fact. Then he spent, I think it was a good sort of 7 to 8 weeks in Scandinavia. Really wanted to just find those players. So sometimes it's difficult to contact him. He spent, again, I think it was about close to 6 months in Antarctica. We told him there were no players there, but he insisted there's stuff to be found out here. And for all of those people going, what are you talking about KG for? It's not him. It's a different guy, the scout. So they look similar, but the scout wears a hat. So it's very, very clearly not KG. So hopefully we'll see from him and hear from him rather later on in the summer in the transfer window. But he's very difficult to pin down. Very, very difficult to pin down. So yes, the squad has just been released for England, and here we go. So again, this is the pre-Euro 2024 training camp, and the goalkeepers are Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale, James Trafford. The defenders, Jared Branthwaite, Lewis Dunk, Joe Gomez, Mark Gahey, Ezri Konsa, Harry Maguire. Manchester United's Harry Maguire does make it. Jarrell Quansah, Luke Shaw, as I said earlier on, does make it. John Stones, Kieran Trippier, and Kyle Walker. Midfielders, interestingly, Trent Alexander-Arnold listed as a midfielder. Conor Gallagher, Curtis Jones, Kobbie Mainoo, Manchester United's Kobbie Mainoo, Declan Rice, Adam Wharton. And the forwards, And I can confirm the forwards do not include Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford, it is now official, has been left out of the England squad for Euro 2024, this provisional one. Jude Bellingham, Jared Bowen, Eze, Phil Foden, Anthony Gordon, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, James Maddison, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Ivan Toney, and Ollie Watkins are all the names that have been included. So once again, that confirms Marcus Rashford has been left out. The Manchester United players that have made it into the England squad, the provisional one for Euro 2024, are the following: Harry Maguire, Kobbie Mainoo, and Luke Shaw. That is it. Remember the days where you would have an England squad full of Manchester United players? Yes, not now. But you look at this is what I mean when you're talking about Marcus Rashford this season. When you're naming those players: Bellingham, Bowen, Eze, Foden, Gordon, Grealish, Kane, Maddison, Palmer, Saka, Toney, Watkins. I mean, you know, it's not exactly. Can't go out. Very unlucky. And again, a couple of those names will be chopped out, I think. Someone probably like Jared Bowen will end up getting cut from that because a lot of forwards there. There's not many midfielders. That midfield will probably stay as it is. But there's no argument, I don't think. There is no argument whatsoever. The interesting one that maybe Rashford might look at, going, you know, like this is the contradiction that is Gareth Southgate there as well, isn't it? Of him going, but he still does have his favourites: Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw. I mean, Luke Shaw, based on fitness, Luke Shaw, he's got no business being in there. Really doesn't. Maguire, once Maguire played, I mean, how many games has Maguire played this season for Manchester United? I know that the fitness with him, but they're saying, he might be back for FA Cup final, so, you know, give it, when's Euro start? 3 weeks or something like that? He'll be fit for that. Harry Maguire played over 30 games for Manchester United this season. He was going to always be in that squad. It's just a case of games for him. Luke Shaw hasn't played since February. The only thing that I would say is harsh, with the provisional part anyway, you'd probably look at Solanke, wouldn't you? And say that's the harsh one. He's had a really good season for Bournemouth. And if you were going to swap someone out, you'd maybe say, because those strikers that are in there, Kane, Toney, and Watkins, that will be the strikers that go. So it'd have been interesting to see. Maybe he took out like a Jared Bowen, put Solanke in there, but maybe he's just decided, no, I'm gonna go. I'm not even considering anyone else. Yeah. As far as natural left backs. So wait a minute, is the only natural left back Luke Shaw? And the only people that will play will be like Kieran Trippier. Wow. People saying Joe Gomez, I suppose. But I consider him more... Joe Gomez isn't in there, no. Oh, he is in there. But I consider him more centre-back than a full-back. I know he plays full-back for Liverpool, but... Oh, we'll see what happens. Again, for me, we're not winning the Euros. But we can hope. Unless, like some people are saying, maybe switch his system, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. Well, it's we do have some quotes too. We do have some quotes from Gareth Southgate on Marcus Rashford's omission. And this is what he said. On Marcus Rashford's omission, quote, "I just feel other players in that area of the pitch have had better seasons." I would go no shit with that, obviously. I mean, and what's really interesting with that is, like I said, I wondered if they were going to go down the route of, you know, wow, did you come back from an injury and, you know, no, he's not been good enough. Fact. I mean, it's not that. Said, yes, with Marcus, I just feel other players in that position have had better seasons. He also said, these are difficult calls, players who are very good players. With Marcus, I just feel that other players in that area of the pitch have had better seasons. It's as simple as that. Simple as that! Now, if only he could tie that logic to like other positions in previous years, that would have been nice. But he hasn't. But, you know, a broken clock, as they say, is right twice a day. And I do feel, and this is someone, I'm not Gareth Southgate's biggest fan, but I do think he's got that right on Marcus Rashford. You could argue, like again, when Harry Maguire wasn't playing well for several years at that point, there were other defenders maybe that were playing well, and he decided not to pick them. But I do think on the Rashford decision, he has got that right. So that is the news. And look, with Rashford, hopefully, again, it serves as a wake-up call for him. Hopefully, as well, this is not only a wake-up call, but he makes some serious changes. Serious changes are needed, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him now moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see what he says. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the weekend in the FA Cup final, whether or not he starts. I don't think he should. I think it should be Garnacho and Ahmad. Ahmad's been playing better than him. He's also been playing recently, so that's two situations there. And yeah, I think it's the right call. Manish Patel says, then again, if Rashford isn't going, what is Grealish doing there? That's the thing. Some people point out. They'll point out to some selections, like again, like a Jack Grealish or what have you. Maybe he might just have the mindset of that. Well, Grealish won the league. He's been part of a better environment. I don't know. With Rashford, it might also be, look, as we always say of Erik ten Hag too, for it's a press conference, maybe there's things that Gareth Southgate doesn't say in there, maybe there's other parts of it too. It's not just about form, it can be about other stuff as well, can't it? Going body language, attitude, and what have you, that might play a part of it too. Again, I do think it's the right call. Because also as well, if Gareth Southgate's thinking of staying on until the World Cup, he might look at it going, well, I want Marcus Rashford to be an option for me in a couple of years' time. Maybe this is the time to shake him up a little bit, of going, look, see, you're not protected here. He might be thinking of the long term with that too, which would be probably the wise thing to do. Not to write him off completely, but also be like, of this needs to be a wake-up call for him, with maybe Grealish not so much. And again, because also it might be the case of, you have to also look at it as going, well, they're probably, like someone like a Grealish, he might not even start that much. So again, sometimes it's what's best for the player. What's best for the player? Is it best for him that I leave him out and send a bit of a message? Is it best for him that the message is not only to the rest of these players, but also to Marcus Rashford as a player, as a person? Get your head down. Need to improve. I do think, again, I think that's the right call. I do. I think that's the right call by Gareth Southgate. So there you go. A reminder, guys, Flex and KG show is going to be coming up at 7 p.m. Later on today. They're actually filming on location. So that's going to be coming up at 7 p.m. So be sure to tune in for that one. As I said, 7 p.m. And then there might be something on playback later on. So if you haven't already, you can see it in the chat right there. You can follow United View on playback. Get involved there. Yesterday was a lot of fun. Flex and myself did so these quizzes. Might do some of them later, perhaps. Maybe get some people involved. That was fun. It was tiring though. It hurts your brain. Maybe, but considering we're in a bit of an England mode, maybe I might do some quizzes on there or something later on. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already, click the like button. Where did we end up with likes? Over 500, which is fantastic for a emergency solo stream. If you haven't already, also subscribe. Less than 500. Look at that. Less than 500 to 168,000 subscribers. So a big up to everyone getting involved. As I said, Flex and KG show coming up later on. And then tomorrow morning, I'll be back with Flex for the morning view. I'm out of here. Have a good one. Peace.